Hey, welcome back to the Motorcyclist Podcast. This is where we talk about motorcycles and what makes them great. Topics on the show, they constantly change, but the one thing that always remains is two-wheeled fun. On this episode, we are going to talk about Yamaha's Tenere 700, a highly popular adventure motorcycle. We're going to get into some history, and we're going to talk about why it's so popular. But before we do that, we got to make introductions on this one. There's only two of us. We got photo director Jeff Allen, and you got myself, executive editor Justin Dawes. So Wahid is out this week, so it's just the two of us. So we're going to make it work. So let's get into it. Jeff, just a quick thing. Tenere 700. You've got a lot of experience with it. You've turned a lot of miles on them, right?
Yeah, I think I say this about most bikes, but I'm a big fan of that bike. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's the danger of being in this business, is you ride a lot of motorcycles that you like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've been a fan of that thing since the beginning, and back in, God, what would that have been, like 2006 or 2007, where they showed that first concept bike at EICMA.
Well, the 17 was the concept for the Tenere 700. Yeah, 2017
at the EICMA show in Milan.
Mm-hmm.
Milan.
Yep.
And the thing was great. And of course, you looked at it and you're like, I doubt they could build it like this. But they actually stayed pretty true to that concept.
Pretty true. Yeah, I mean, the headlights were a little different, few things, but overall, it was a really cool thing. So we'll get into all that. But I've got a lot of time on them too. I went to the first press launch, the first opportunity to ride them. And I think that was in Spain, but it's been a little while. It could have been Spain. It could have been Italy. It could have been Portugal, for all I know. I can't remember. But we went and rode that thing for 2 or 3 days, and it was right off the get-go. You could tell it was going to be a highly popular motorcycle. You knew that before even we rode it, though. I mean, people were so interested from the jump on that motorcycle. One, because of the Tenere name has been around for quite a while, and it has a legacy of that stuff. But then, it had a low price point. It was $9,999. So it offered some simplicity where other adventure motorcycles were really getting in heavy into electronics and things like that. So
emphasis on the heavy.
Yeah, emphasis on the heavy. So anyway, before we get talking about the 700 right now, we got to talk about the history. So I've got a little history lesson, as I always do. Get ready for my monologue or my dissertation, and we'll run through it real quick. But it's pretty interesting how this whole thing came about. So we got to start off with actually the Yamaha XT500, the enduro motorcycle. That thing was basically made to be just an enduro bike, a dual sport type of motorcycle. But Jean-Claude Olivier was in charge of a company called Sonato, which was Yamaha France's importer of motorcycles. And he actually later became the president of Yamaha Motor France. But he's rode it, he enjoyed it, and he was like, we should race these things. And so he started racing the XT500 in the late 70s and early 80s in rallies, and hired some people to ride. He rode, and they actually had some really good success, including racing Dakar. So first Dakar was won by an XT500. Cyril Neveu. Sorry, French people. We're going to screw some names up today. He won Dakar on an XT500, and they won again in 1980. And then came along BMW's R80 GS. And
I think one of those years it was an all Yamaha podium as well.
Yeah, there's in the 80s there's an all Yamaha podium, but it was 1-2 XT500s, and then they won an 80, and then BMW came along with the big R80 GS, and they just couldn't hang top speed wise, and so Olivier was like, we gotta to build something. So he requested that Yamaha in Japan build a bike that was more Dakar friendly or Dakar ready after getting smoked by the R80 in 81. And so in 83 came the first Tenere, the XT600. So that was a 1983 model. Didn't get sold in the US. We got the TT600 Enduro, which didn't have the big tank and that kind of stuff that you would need for Dakar. But it was basically, they took an XT500, they put almost motocross suspension on the thing, big tank, more power, and so they made it so it was racer ready. So that's where Tenere started. And Tenere, interesting enough, it's pretty funny. Tenere means like how would you like desert or isolation in the Tuareg language. So it's funny that there's a Tenere and there's also a Tuareg in the adventure bike category.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the dumb Volkswagen SUV that also had the Touareg name.
So before we skip over Jean-Claude Olivier, like most people will recognize him from his pretty famous photo. If you know what I'm talking about, him in a business suit, no helmet, looking sideways, wheeling in the VMAX. That's Jean-Claude Olivier.
Yeah, he's a a rider first and then a businessman second, or maybe equal parts. But he basically is the reason for the Tenere. He really pushed on it, and he's the one that got him to start it. So then as Dakar and rally racing went on, multi-cylinder, bigger bikes became the norm, higher speeds. So in 88, Yamaha came out with a factory race bike for Stefan Peter Hansel, Olivier, and Franco Pico called the OW93. A lot of Yamaha factory racers always started with OW back in those days. So OW93 was the project number, and it was a 750 parallel twin with a 360-degree crank, 10 valves. So the Delta box or Delta head, so five valve heads for each cylinder, and it got second in 1988, and from that came the 89 XT 750 Super Tenere. So that was the first multi-cylindered adventure motorcycle for Yamaha. It was sold in 89 in the US, but only for a few years, and then it went away. And they became like a sought after gray market bike. Like people were buying them in France and bringing them to the US if they could. But that's when Yamaha had an all Yamaha Dakar podium. That was 91, with Stefan Peter Hansel as the winner. So, who I met a bunch of times when I was a young kid, or I should say a teenager, because my old boss was a French guy named Eric Pernard, who everyone in the motorcycle industry will know that name. And he brought Peter Hansel over for some rallies in the US, the Nevada rally. And I actually got to go ride with him and kind of show him the terrain and do some pre-running with him, which was really fun. Yeah, I got to show him the way. Yeah, he was probably bored to death riding behind me, but it was pretty cool. So anyway, that started off a multi-year long winning streak on the XT 750 Super Tenere based race bikes that were actually 850s, but they weren't built by Yamaha at that point. They were built by Yamaha Motor France or a race team that Olivier had kind of set up. So they weren't factory bikes anymore per se. They had factory support, but they weren't full race bikes. So in the meantime, there was other iterations of the single. There was XT660 sold in other markets, but never in the US.
It's crazy. We get hosed on that quite often.
We get hosed a lot. And
the good stuff. Just
the story of getting hosed on Teneres continues to this day, which we'll talk about a little later. So, so then we had a big gap in the US where there was no Tenere, regular Tenere or Super Tenere, no Teneres in the US until 2010. And that's when the XTZ 1200 Super Tenere came out. Remember that thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good motorcycle. It's a bit, heavy for the off-road, but,
yeah,
it's a nice motorcycle.
Yeah, it was a great motorcycle. It was a big bore ADV Tour, parallel twin, 1200 cc's. It was just a big bike. Like they basically followed BMW's lead in a way, and it was supposed to be a competitor to BMW's. I think at that time would have been the R1150 GS, probably. Maybe R12. I can't remember my years of GSs at the moment, but anyway, it was big. It was comfortable. It had some weird quirks on it, like you couldn't turn off the ABS very easily.
Well, you could trick it into turning it off.
You could trick it. You could put it up on the center stand, put it in second gear, run it up to like 45 miles an hour or something on the center stand, and it would go into a fault mode, and then the ABS would turn off. And that was the only way you could do it.
That was the only
way.
Or
pull the fuse.
Yeah.
Right. So then there was companies making like basically switches that went, on the wire between the fuse and the module, so that you could just basically, like it was a blown fuse, you would open the circuit. But I mean, I did have a moment on one of those on a very fast fire road where I forgot to do the run up and make it trip, and I was booking into this corner in near Salt Lake, Utah, on a gravel road, and I came to like a 90-degree turn, and it was like
it won't let you stop.
I went off road, and I couldn't make the turn at all. It just shot off into the scrub oak and stuff, and luckily nothing happened. But
luckily there was something smooth over there, not just air.
Yeah, if it was air, it would have been a big problem. So I would have been Superman on a Super Tenere.
I had a photo shoot with Ryan Dudak, who and the way on that bike and the way he could handle that thing was amazing. Like he really making it look a lot lighter than, what is it, almost 600 pounds?
Yeah, it was almost 600 pounds.
He could really make that thing look a lot lighter.
And they gave it love over the years, and they added electronic suspension to it, semi-active suspension and some stuff. And it was always if you were just about 80% road and 20% dirt or something, easy dirt, it was a great motorcycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's perfect for that. I mean,
great engine, comfortable, Yamaha quality, so it was great for that.
Plenty
kind
of room
stuff.
if you want to tour like two up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep, exactly.
In that sense, it is like a GS, it's good for all that stuff.
Good for all that stuff. But they didn't have a adventure bike that was super off-road capable. And that's when 2017, the Tenere 700 was announced. And you were at EICMA, you saw it. Did people just was it just, I was there too, actually. I was working at KTM at the time. So I was there, and I remember there was just constantly a crowd around that bike on the stand.
It was big news. Yeah, for sure it was. And everybody was pretty excited about it. And like I said, most of us were sort of pessimistic about whether it would become what it looked like there, that concept bike. And it really, mostly it did.
Yeah. I was at KTM, and it kind of stole the thunder of the 790 Adventure R that the production model had been released, and it was like, everyone was like, yeah, who cares? Look at this Yamaha,
Yeah.
So, it was powered by a CP2 parallel twin, Yamaha's awesome 270-degree cross-plane crank parallel twin. And it was meant to rival BMW's F800 GS, Tiger 800, and of course the KTM 790 Adventure R. And it was meant to be a more extreme version of an adventure motorcycle. That's what they were, they marketed that. They showed it doing wheelies and jumps, and they kind of really leaned on the Dakar heritage in the press materials. So, but then we had to wait 2 years. I should say Europe had to wait 2 years to get the first production year. And it stayed very close to the concept. It was very very much looked very close to the same. And it was it came as a simple, no electronics besides ABS. It had decent wheel travel, 210 millimeters in the front, 200 in the rear, adjustable suspension, and it had a very low price in Europe at the time. But we didn't get it in the US until 2020 model. So we had to wait almost a year to get the Tenere 700 on the shores of the United States.
If I remember that, it was more about like production schedules.
It was about production schedules and prioritizing, prioritizing markets, because in reality, the street bike market in Europe is much larger than the street bike market in the US for Yamaha. So of course they would send the bikes to where they're guaranteed to sell more of them, right? And then you still have the heritage or the history of Yamaha Motor France and Tenere and that kind of relationship. So it would have been wrong to not have Europe get those bikes first.
Yeah.
So
and it was fine. Everyone was still excited about it a year later.
Yeah, everyone was still excited about it a year later. So then it came to the US in 2020, and it was $1 less than $10,000, $9,999. And that was quite a bit less than some of the competition. A KTM Adventure R 790 was $13,500. So you're talking $3,500 less,
Well, you're talking about, 30%, 30% more for the KTM. I mean, that's a lot. If you're looking at higher end bikes, a few grand might not bother some people, but when you're looking at 10,000 and then there's another 30% for the other one.
Yeah. And that kind of solidified its popularity, I think, is that you could look at, don't get us wrong, the 790 Adventure R was, now it's the 890, is an amazing adventure motorcycle. Probably off the showroom floor, the best off-road version of an adventure motorcycle you can get. WP suspension that's fully adjustable, that's long travel, that, and it's got all the electronic wizardry that you could get, where the Yamaha had a button for ABS to turn it on and off. And it had a LCD dash on it, like this little vertical shaped, rectangle where, you got a TFT dash and all these things on all these other bikes. But that simplicity was also endearing to people, because there's a lot of people that even to this day, we're 10 years in on the electronics front, on like heavy electronics on motorcycles. There's still people that don't want that. Yeah. Right. And
they don't want to pay for it if they don't feel that they're going to use it.
Exactly. Enough. Yeah. Yeah. So, it was immediately a hot seller, like sold out, probably really couldn't realistically buy it for $9,999.
Not that first year.
Not that first year. So, and it's been popular ever since. And, in that middleweight category, it is, one of the sales leaders. It's super popular and people love it, and for good reason. Right. So, now we're up to 2025 and it's gone up $1,000 in price. But it got redone. It got some revisions for this year. So, now it has a, YCCT chip ride-by-wire throttle setup that allows it to have ride modes. So it's got a Sport and Explorer mode that basically change the power characteristics and the pickup of the throttle and the throttle response. You've got 2 TC modes. You can turn TC on and off. You've got 3 ABS modes now. You've got, instead of just ABS on and ABS off, you've got ABS on both wheels, ABS on just the front, and then ABS off. And it's got new switch gear. It's got a TFT dash, and it's really easy to change the modes. You don't have to go through a lot of steps to do it.
Yeah, it's very intuitive.
Which is really nice. It's very intuitive. Yep. It's very simple to do.
You could do it real quickly at a signal or something if you want to turn something on or off.
Yeah, it's a really slick system. I think they kept the vertical oriented dash, which I think is still cool. I like it. I think it looks cool that way.
I agree.
And then the styling is very simple, but or similar to what it was before. Just kind of updated. Still looks great. Still looks like, you instantly recognize it as a Tenere.
Yeah. And they've
Suspension
done a nice
settings.
job through the years of the colorways and stuff. It's
Oh
really,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Kind of racy
really
colors.
very little to knock it for.
No, very little. It got better suspension settings, a little bit stiffer, a little bit more off-road ready. And then they moved the clutch arm on the side cover on the clutch side. It had this arm. The location of the arm, if you were standing up and trying to squeeze the bike with your legs, you would hit that clutch arm
With your
area
boot?
with your boot. You would feel
Yeah.
it, and it was. I wouldn't say it caused any problems other than it was annoying. And if you rode like multiple days and you were pressing on that thing and you were like doing a lot of like serious off-roading, you'd almost have a bruise on your leg where that thing was at.
Yeah.
So they moved that forward. So they moved they rotated it basically forward. So now your leg doesn't hit up against it. So that's really good.
And then on the old one, was like durability or anything an issue?
No, it's always been pretty. Okay. No, you couldn't break anything. It had like a little cover over it, okay. If I remember correctly. But it was, it's just the clutch arm. So it's just it had like a boss on the clutch cover. And then the shaft came out and the arm was on it. And it was tucked in enough to where you wouldn't be pressing on it or catch it on your boots or anything like that. It was just, you felt like the boss because it had a bump there where the bearing and all that stuff was. So, and then I got a new air filter set up for this year as well. So it's updated, not heavily. They really stuck to the simple promise of that bike, which, sure, it's got some ride modes and it's got some ABS modes, but it's still not like super techy to where you have to go through a lot of screens and you're like, oh, I'm going to change the TC from this to this to this to this, like all that kind of stuff. And when it first came out, I knocked it for not having TC because that engine is very torquey and it's very responsive. And I felt like in some slick situations, it could use TC, and now it has it.
Yeah.
And it works pretty good in the dirt.
I agree. I think it doesn't have a lot, but it's not, those aren't, as far as it doesn't have a lot of like features that the higher end stuff does or didn't. Mm-hmm. Now it's got some stuff, and that's okay. Like it's more of a dirt bike, adventure bike than just about everything else, like
you get on very much so.
Where you need it to be like a dirt bike, I feel like it is. And then also like sort of the creature comforts are minimal, but just enough. Like when I'm doing those like getting there miles and you're like maybe a couple hours on the freeway to get to Big Bear or whatever, it's enough. It's enough.
Oh yeah, protection
behind there. Like you're not really giving up a lot. And
no,
like I said, it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, a lot cheaper. You can take that money saved and you can use it to modify your bike, change suspension settings if you need, put a cool exhaust on it because they sound awesome with an exhaust on them, all that kind of stuff. Or you just, you just have a lower entry point, which is totally cool too, which is really nice. So that kind of takes us to my question is, or my hypothesis that why they're so popular. Why was it an immediate hit? What's your thoughts on like, why did it like it just hit a bullseye, like right off the get go?
Yeah. Well, and sometimes with those concept bikes, there's sort of a hangover afterwards. They don't really quite live up to it. Like you see something and you have expectations, whether they're fair or not, that doesn't matter. But you want it to be the best, or you want it to be awesome. And when we saw that bike at EICMA, and then when the manufacturer, the stock bike came in, I was like, wow, they did it. And I think that's it. Like they met the expectation. They put that bike out there. People were like, oh, this is going to be rad. And then it was.
Yeah, of course, very much so.
That motor has a lot to do with it. That is a really, really nice motor.
It's such a good engine.
And it's it's fantastic in an adventure bike. It
really is. It's really,
it's got good power down low. It's got good power in general. They did a good job of the total package of keeping the weight down.
I think the torquey character of the engine makes the bike feel lighter than it is. It's not a heavy bike. It's 400 and I don't know, 30 pounds or something.
Yeah,
and
adventure bikes go. That's
we'll just say 450.
I wrote it down. 470. 470.
Okay, 470 with everything in it. So when it's all filled up with gas and everything. So that engine character makes it feel lighter because it's so responsive and quick and dirt bike feeling, right? You just whop, whop, whop. It's just got this like immediate snap to it that, some of the other, like the KTM, it doesn't have that immediate snap. You got to rev it up higher in the range. It's a mid range to a high end motor, where this thing it's all down low. So like when you're picking your way through stuff or you're wanting to hop over things, you can just go rup, rup, and it feels like a dirt bike. It's really
like
good for that.
On like 2-track, like Jeep trail, and there's always rocks or weeds or something in the middle, like that whop, like you're explaining. It's how you get over from one side to the other. You just like over like you would maybe on a 450.
Yeah, it's really nice, And then on the road, it works really well too. It almost feels like a big supermoto bike, and that has a lot to do with the tires. The stock tires that are on it, they're really good on the road. They're off road.
Especially if it's soft.
If it's soft or it's sandy, those tires aren't the greatest, but changing tires is easy. You got a lot of money, $3,500 to change tires, right? So that's not a problem. And
wait, what do you mean by that?
Like to change the tires. Like if you're going to be a dirt person, you're going to want to change the tires, but you're saving so much money compared to the competition.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's cool.
And in my opinion, you would change the tires on the KTM as well.
Yeah. I think so. I think you would change it.
If you're going to go off-roading.
If you're going to go off-roading, yeah. I mean, most of them need changing if you're going to go off-roading. They really go for like a middle ground, and that's cool, But those tires are really awesome on the street, and it feels like a supermoto bike on the street, and it works pretty good in the dirt. And I think it feels familiar to people too. It doesn't. You get on that bike, and you notice the seat height's kind of tall, but it doesn't feel big and heavy like some other adventure bikes do. It feels familiar if you're a dirt bike rider. You know what I mean?
Both the standing and the sitting rider triangle are very much do feel like a dirt bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bars are in the right place. The foot pegs are in the right place. The seats, got the right height. It's got the right shape. The tank to seat area is not super wide. You're not like totally like your knees aren't pushed out way far when you want to get
I do feel a bit of
over the front.
With my knee braces. We've talked about it. I do feel a bit of width there, but
a little bit. But I mean, that's normal in almost every adventure motorcycle that you feel some width there. So what else? I mean, the price obviously makes it popular.
I think that they, all of the things that we as journalists, but also we as motorcycle enthusiasts, like it was all the things that we hoped for, and they pretty much nailed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was in 2019 or 20. I bought an adventure bike, and it was between the KTM and the Yamaha, and it came down to I couldn't wait any longer for the Yamaha, so I bought a KTM.
Yeah,
So, but I think I would have been happy with the Yamaha too, especially when I went to town on it and did all the things. So and then we can't forget there's one guy that has made the Tenere amazingly popular too. Superhuman dude, Pol Tarres.
Yeah, that guy's a magician. You know what I mean? The things he can do on that bike is just mental.
Yeah,
and they keep upping the ante. They make him do more and more difficult stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's shown the world that you can do gnarly stuff on these bikes, and now there's more people doing it. I mean, like there's an adventure bike class
if you're
in Romania.
You can do all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys like Kevin Gallis or I think that's how you say his last name. Like he, he's really good on the bike too. He's not as trialsy as Pol. Like Pol does like some of the stuff he does is like art, on that bike, in his videos where he does, crazy splatters, or he rides up a tree and then backwards down a tree, and, does these crazy, like no-footed 180 pivot turns on the tire on the side of a hill, and, that kind of stuff. But, and
the big road jump that he did, that was
amazing. That road jump was massive road jump. So, he definitely showed that these bikes are capable. If you're a superhuman person in the right hands, they are super capable. And now they've added racing series for adventure bikes in almost every racing series.
Yeah.
And I think what he did has a lot to do with that. So,
that is the thing about the adventure bikes. Like they look so big and heavy. And I think as they got more and more capable, people were a little bit reluctant to really do too much off-road. But now that you see what can be done, you can judge your talents versus theirs and dial it back a little bit. But they're pretty dang capable.
They're super capable. They're far more capable than 99% of the people are. We'll say 98% of the people are, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we've already talked about this, but we both are fans. We both like it. Give me a reason why, like the number one reason why you like this motorcycle.
Like I've already said that it's because it is a dirt bike at heart. I know the motors comes from a street bike, but when you stand, it has the soul of a dirt bike. When you standing on the pegs, off-road, just kind of sliding through a corner or whatever, or like flipping over that middle part on the two track, it's very much a dirt bike. Like I don't get too many thoughts running through my head that I'm on a street bike. It's a dirt bike.
Yeah. I would agree exactly. I think that's the number one thing I like about it too, is the enduro bike or dirt bike feel of it, and the way it just, if you're a dirt bike rider, it's easy to ride off-road.
Yeah, and it feels like home. If your background comes from dirt bikes, it feels like home.
Yeah, very much feels like home. So what's the one thing that you would change? Like what even, you've rode in the 2025 a little bit, probably not off-road much, but on the road.
Yeah.
What would you change? What would you like to see them do more of? Or is there anything?
Well, I guess like other versions of it that we don't get. I would love to throw a leg over the rally version, or I would like to see that. I think that would be, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how much more that bike is. Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head in Europe, but I think that also addresses the one thing that I wish was better on the bike, is the suspension. The suspension is good, but when you really want to push it, it still bottoms out. It makes some not nice noises when it hits the end of the stroke, and it feels, it may feel a little cheap at that one split second where the shock or the fork goes clank, clank, when you're and I think that the other models that you can get in Europe would have solved that problem. So in Europe, you can get 3 models total instead of just the one we have in the US. You can get the World Raid, which is like the big world traveling rally bike, I guess. It's got dual tanks, so it's got 2 fillers on the top, and a whole 6 gallons instead of 4.2. So a bit more fuel. It's got longer travel KYB suspension that goes from the normal 200 to 230. So we're talking 1.5 inches more suspension travel. It's got 220 at the rear.
Do they do anything to the seat to accommodate for that? Like, do they shave the seat down?
The seat is flat. It's a very flat seat, like instead of the kind of scoop dish step thing that you would see on a street bike. So, but it's still a 2-piece seat. It's got a steering damper, and it's got kind of gnarlier tires on it. It's just a little bit more rugged, but it also has more range. And so that's the World Raid. And then they have the Rally, which has upgraded suspension, skid plates, a high front fender. So it's got a dirt bikey looking front fender. It's got titanium foot pegs. It's got a Rally seat. So it's a little taller seat, skinnier, flatter. And then it's got a cool, like, retro paint scheme that kind of goes back to the early days of Dakar and the early days of XT 600.
I really like how Yamaha does that. With the a look back on the colorways.
They do killer throwbacks. They probably do it almost better than everyone, except for maybe the Kawasaki when they did the white, blue, and green Ninjas a couple years ago. Those were pretty solid too. But other than that, I think the Yamaha does their throwbacks better than everybody, on their sport bikes and their dirt bikes. So
yeah, you did touch on one thing I didn't mention that I would like to see would be better range.
Mm-hmm.
That the bike could use more range.
Yeah, I mean, it has a smallish tank. I mean, it's not quite 5 gallons. Its competition. We'll say its closest competition is probably the V-Strom 800, and that has a 5.3 gallon tank. So it has a half gallon more.
Or the Transalp.
Or the Transalp. Yeah, the Transalp's got a 5 gallon, 5.1. Don't remember. So they may have 30, 40 more miles in them, maybe. So it's not a huge difference, but when you're comparing it to some of the big ADVs with big gas tanks that can go 300 miles on a tank, you kind of wish it had more range.
Yeah, you say it's not a huge difference. It's 30 miles. When you're sweating gas, 30 miles is a lot.
True. Yeah. I guess if you're worrying about street miles, it's not a lot. But if you're off-road out in the boonies or even on a desolated highway somewhere, then 30 miles is a big difference.
That's significant. Yeah.
You don't have to look at the flashing fuel light as long, right?
Yeah.
So, and then they have the standard model. So they get 3. And that goes back to the whole thing you talked about before, is that Europe's a bigger place for street bikes. And so they sell more bikes. It makes sense to sell them there. It's completely unclear why they don't bring them here, but I think maybe production is just limited. Like, they have only so much time they can build them on the assembly line. And so they just are like, US doesn't get them.
Are those other models, are those built in France or are they built in Japan?
I don't know on what assembly line they're built on. But I don't think they're an upgraded, like, I don't think they upfit them in France. I think that they come off the assembly line like that. But I think, they have to allocate, they only have so much production capacity. And so they're just like, the US needs this many street, Latin America market needs this many street standards. Everyone needs this many standards. That leaves this much space for the other two. And we can sell all of them in Europe. So why bother?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And then, of course, also historically, like we said, Yamaha Motor France is responsible for the Tenere, for the existence of the Tenere. So why shouldn't they, lead the way on selling all the cool ones that we don't get? Right?
Yeah, we can still dream about forbidden fruit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the aftermarket here is huge for the Tenere. So, I mean, maybe there's no need for those models for the Rally and the World Raid, except that I would say that World Raid, the larger fuel tank setup would be nice for sure.
Yeah, and it's it'd be cheaper to have it on the bike when you buy it, right, as opposed to buying a whole bike and then start swapping stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. So, we every year when Yamaha announces the next special edition Rally Raid, World Raid, whatever it may be, I get excited, and then I read the press release, and I'm like, oh no, it's only for Europe. Of course, it's only for Europe. It's a bummer. It's definitely a bummer. But I think at the same time, it might be Yamaha USA being very smart about, they know their market, they know what they can sell them for, and it may be just the price may be pushing the limit, and so they just like, or it could be the production thing. Who knows? We don't work at Yamaha. We can only speculate.
Can we speculate about why is there not a Tenere 900, a triple?
I know. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I think it's logical.
Super,
I mean, you would think because the triple follows the same exact game plan as the CP2. As the CP3 follows the CP2, right? It's that engine is used in multiple models. We're talking MTO7, XSR7, Tracer 7, which we don't have in the US. And then you've got Tenere, and then you have all those same things with the 900, except for the Tenere.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, like, what are they waiting for?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We should ask them.
Yeah, we should ask, but
Yamaha,
we won't get any clear. Yeah, we won't get any clear answer. We might get some coy smiles or, some very politically correct response, but
they probably tell us we wouldn't get them here anyways.
Yeah, we can get him anyways. They go. Everyone would be sold in France, but at the same time, like, I think if they did more with the Super Tenere and they kind of like updated that, and then you had the 700, I think it's fine, because the 700 is very good and it's very cool, and I don't find myself wishing for more power from the 700, to be honest.
No.
So why do we need the 900? I mean, it would be nice. I think there'd be people that would just fall over backwards for it and immediately want it, and there's triple, the Tiger 900 is a triple. It's a really fun ride. It makes nice power, though. It's got a kind of a torquey setup from that engine, plus it revs out. So it has some benefits, but I don't think it's enough to jump from the 700 to the 900, to be honest. Like, if I owned a 700, I wouldn't go buy a 900 if it came out.
But if you were looking for something a little bit bigger, like it could be a little bit more of a Super Tenere.
Yeah,
as
true.
far as like, more of a 2-passenger, bigger, somewhat less off-roady, maybe still.
Yeah, and that would be the other way that they could do it, is
maybe two versions, one with a 1719, and another version with the 1821.
Yep, and that's the other way they could do it, is no 1200, and then the 900 is the Super Tenere.
Yeah, because I don't see too many Super Teneres on the road.
Not much anymore. So anyway, so we are hoping maybe one day we'll see a 900 Tenere. But as it is, the 700 is a rally raid. We'd really love to see the rally raid. I think actually it would make sense for him to bring the world raid rather than the rally, because the rally, you could do all those things aftermarket, but the bigger tank and that kind of stuff on the world raid, you're not going to go do that. So it'd be nice to get that one from the get-go. So anyway, I think that's it on this one. So Tenere 700, it's clear it's super popular because it's so damn good at a decent price. It has some rally heritage, and it stays relatively true to that heritage of Tenere. So, yeah. And then it's always on the short list if you're shopping for more hardcore ATV. Takeaways from this whole thing: the Yamaha Tenere is super popular because it's so damn good at such a decent price. It's got a rally heritage that goes back all the way to the 80s, and it stays relatively true to that heritage. And if you're shopping for one, it should definitely be on your short list for a more hardcore or middleweight ADV.
Yeah, or just wallet friendly,
Yeah, wallet friendly for sure. So with that, we're gonna finish off our love fest for the Tenere 700. Thanks for listening. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about the Tenere, or what you think is better, or give us some more ideas of what you want us to talk about. And we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.